see my video. Sorry.
Yes, we
Yes,
can. We
good
can.
evening. We can hear
Okay.
you.
Excellent. So my name is Tanya Karaoke. I know I had the honor and privilege of meeting all of you during the selection phase. I haven't been a popular figure around these parts for a few weeks now, so it's really wonderful to kind of be back in the circle. I've attended a bunch of sessions, and they've been really great, really interesting, super interactive, and I'm glad to see that you're enjoying your time in the accelerator. So for those who may not know me anyway, I'm going to kick off by introducing myself. So as I said, my name is Tanya Karaoke, and I work with an organization called Telistic. Telistic is the implementation partner for BimaLab. And on a personal level, we really enjoy the work we do around capacity building, and we're really passionate about the startup ecosystem across Africa. So it's really an honor to work with you and see you grow your businesses, and really looking forward to seeing what happens post the accelerator. With me today is a wonderful gentleman by the name of Ibrahim Khalil. It's really my honor to introduce him to the group. So Ibrahim works with NICOM, and he is actually their DPO, which means that he's their data protection officer at NICOM, and a core member of the tech team at NICOM. He is a computer science graduate. He's a member of the Computer Professionals of Nigeria, a member of the Computer Society of Nigeria, and also a member of the British Computer Society. And Ibrahim tells me that he's super passionate about technology, and particularly the intersection between technology and business, and the ability for technology to drive a real evolution across the business ecosystem. So it's really an honor to have him here today. He's super knowledgeable on data protection policies, both from a broad perspective, but even more importantly, from a compliance and regulatory requirement perspective within the context of Nigeria. Typically, we have this session because increasingly, especially for yourselves, you're already regulated by NICOM, but oftentimes people don't realize that there's a secondary regulator that has requirements you must meet. And so what we really hope All right, I seem to have dropped off there. Can you hear me now? Am I back?
Yes, you are
Okay.
back.
So excellent, excellent. Good. So what we really hope to achieve in this session is to provide you with a bit of an understanding around what the requirements are. I know a bunch of you may be familiar with the regulation anyway, so provide you with an understanding of what the regulatory requirements are. Secondly, give you the opportunity to engage with Ibrahim and really understand the applicability of that regulation and how they've gone about it at NICOM. But third, and probably most important, is what kind of help can we see coming through from NICOM as far as this is concerned for startups in the insurtech industry, and how NICOM wants to play a role in terms of removing some of the obstacles to doing business, one of which, as we all know, tends to be a pain in the behind, but obviously a huge requirement, which is regulatory compliance. So I hope that within the course of today, we get to touch on all of that. I encourage you throughout the session to type in any questions you may have in the chat window. We'll have Ibrahim share a presentation with us, and then we'll open for Q&A. If you've got any burning questions in the middle of the session, please feel free to put up your hand and I'll call upon you. I do want to say up front that Ibrahim has to leave latest by about 6:30 because he has iftar. And so we will finish a little bit earlier than planned today, but I think that you all understand why, and I think that we will all be accommodating of what he needs to do. So Ibrahim, I want to welcome you to the session. I know you're going to share your screen and a couple of slides, so if you don't mind popping those up, so I can confirm that I can see your screen, and then I will hand over the mic to you.
Okay, thank you, Tanya. Thank you. Can you see my screen?
And then you am I
up.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you see the screen?
I can.
Yeah, it's up. It's up.
Oh,
We
okay.
can.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, once again,
And then Ibrahim, if you don't mind, if there's any issues with connectivity, I'll just ask you to turn off your camera so that we optimize for audio as opposed to video, and that may give us a better experience.
okay, no problem. Let me even do that right away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
So
Over to
good
you.
evening, everyone. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Tonya. It's been a pleasure to meet you all. And I'll be the one to take you through data policies in Nigeria. And for those of you that are part of the BimaLab, I would say a really congrats to you and really nice to meet you all. And I know we'll be meeting each other in future very soon. So thank you. Okay. Data protection regulation is is actually designed. It's a mandate for NIDA, which is a National Information Technology Agency, issued the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation in 2019. They are the custodian of the regulation, but also they mandated all MDS and sister agencies of Nigeria to actually do the same to their regulated entities, which is part of what we have been doing in NICOM. The NDPR provides legal safeguards for the processing of personal data. Under the NDPR, personal data must be processed in accordance with the specific legitimate and lawful purpose consented. This is what I want you to understand. In every data you are collecting, there must be a consent from the personnel you are collecting data from. The data subject must give you his consent before you can collect data. And if you collect the data, how are you going to keep it? What are you going to keep it in future? When going forward, you will understand that. For us to understand the the NDPR, we have to look at the background. There is a EU GDPR, which come to play on the 20th of May 2018. And that section of which Nigeria has been using was the section 8 of the Child Right Act. We've been using that even before the advent of the NDPR. Then the Nigerian Constitution, the 1999 Constitution, also talked about the Personal Data Subject Data Controller, which brings about the draft of the Protection Guideline 2017. In 2019, NCC has their own General Consumer Code of Practice. All these policies are there prior to the NDPR. So with all these things, the federal government look at it and say, okay, let's come up with something that will harmonize all these policies. Instead of it being treated individually, let's have a collective and harmonized. So the mandate was given to NIDA to do that, and they come up with the Nigerian Data Protection in 2019. This is a brief background. What is the objectives of the NDPR? The objectives of this NDPR is to safeguard the rights of persons to data privacy, to promote a safe environment for the exchange of personal data, to prevent manipulation of personal data, to ensure that Nigerian businesses remain competitive by providing a regulatory framework for data protection, which is compliant with global best practice. These are the main objectives of the NDPR. Majorly is to protect the consumers and also promote fairness in the competitive market. Those are the major objectives. Okay, going forward, the fundamental principle of NDPR: lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. That is what the NDPR wants to achieve. There should be fairness, there should be transparency. If you are collecting data, what are you collecting it for? For what purpose? Purpose and limitation. Data minimization. You have to minimize what you are collecting. It's not that you are going to collect everything. Anything you see, or you sometimes if you go somewhere, they collect information that is not even needed. Accuracy of the information. Make sure what you are collecting is accurate for that information. Storage limitation. There should be limitation for storing data. Are you keeping it for just 1 day, 2 days, or for a lifetime? That should be specified. Integrity and confidentiality. That is the security of that data. Every data you collect, the integrity and confidentiality of that data must be there. Make sure that it doesn't compromise. Accountability. You must be accountable for what you collected, and for the data you are keeping, you must be accountable. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear
But it
you.
looks like
Oh,
there's,
can
yeah,
hear
like
you.
there's a screen. Yeah, there we go. The screen is good now. Keep going.
Oh, okay. Okay, the terms of NDPR. We have the data controller, determines the purpose for which and the means by which personal data is processed. The data protection compliance officer, which is the DPCO. Any organization licensed by NIDA. This DCPO it's only NIDA that can license a DCPO. They are the one that license them to train, audit, consult, or render any services which aim at ensuring compliance with the regulation. Even NICOM, every year we engage the service of this DPCO every year, which is mandated by the law, to come and audit our processes, see how compliant we are. At the end of the process, they will generate a report, give one to us. That is NICOM, the management of NICOM, and also copy NIDA to show them the level of compliance, our level of compliance. The data protection officer is the steward of data protection, implementation, and compliance with within an organization. So here, in every organization, there must be a DPO. In NICOM, I happen to be the DPO of department and units, which are the one that help me to run the affairs to carry out my responsibilities. They report to me on all the processes, showing that each unit or department is compliant collectively. We sit together, we see what we need to come up, how are we going to advise the management on things that we see that is not going the right way. We advise the management so that we make sure that we are always in compliance with the regulation. Data policy action plan. There we have the project initiation, we have the raising awareness, analyze your data, understanding your data, say what you see, have the rights, let's keep it legal. When it goes wrong, who are you calling? The data protection officer. So we'll go through all these 9 steps. As the project initialization. Establish a team to ensure that the entire business is aware of the process. Before you start even going around implementing the NDPR in the organization, you have to assemble a team. And the team must be aware, trained on the NDPR. Then those teams are the ones that will educate the people in your organization to show them this is what the regulation said, and this is what we are trying to achieve in the process. Bring together key people from across your business. This include HR, finance, sales, marketing, operation, and IT. Typically, these people are going to be involved in processing the data. all these people. So it's good when you are assembling the team, you bring these people that you think are key in processing data. You have to bring them together, let them be part of the team, so that everybody will contribute equally to achieve the same goal. Define your scope, what needs to be included, your objectives and timeline for the project. This is key. Each project has a timeline. I think when the NDPR regulations specified the certain time for you to complete your auditing every year, there are certain times there, so you need to do your audit and send the compliance report to NIDA. The business owners slash leaders should support the data protection project, which is key. Without support, you can't achieve it. So the management is supposed to be the drivers of this. They have to buy into it and encourage you to achieve your purpose. Rising awareness. You cannot achieve all these kind of things without awareness. Yeah, awareness is key part of it. Ensure to get the support of everyone in the organization. Before you start implementing it, any data policy in the organization, you have to tell everybody in the organization, this is it. This is what we are trying to achieve. This is the regulation. This is so that everybody in the organization will be aware and know what roles he needs to play in the organization. Create an awareness campaign. Don't just send out emails. It's not just by email. Somebody can just read an email, that's all. But when you go bring them together, maybe set up a conference, invite them, talk to them, maybe go to unit by unit or department by department, talk to them. This is what we want to do, this is it, and these are the processes we are going to do. So in near future, you'll be seeing this, you'll be seeing these changes, you understand? Let the people know so that they can adopt the changes. Think about a timeline. What do you want people to know? Tell them what you want them to know. Don't shy away from keeping other things. Tell them what you want them to know and what you want them to do. What is important to each area and each level of the business. You have to specify, tell them. Does the head of the business need as such details as the frontline or support staff? You have to. What do you want people to take away from the message? All those things you need to tell them. These are the things we want to achieve. This is the message we are passing. And please, for us to achieve this, we need you to achieve this because they are the custodian of the information. Other you may in everybody works like in NICOM, let me say, almost everybody works with information from the industry. I know if it's information within the organization, we all work with the information. So those data are key. Everybody needs to know his role. Analyzing the data. In order to understand what you need to protect, the following must be sent to head of departments. Data protection and information security policy. I believe every organization should have that. Data protection and information security policy. There should be a policy on ground, and every head of department needs to have that and make sure that it's complying with that. Employment contracts. So there are certain contracts, things in certain contracts that, in an employment contract, that the head of department needs to know so that they will know what kind of information they need to disclose or which one they don't need to disclose, because it can lead to so many things. Suppliers contract, privacy notice, breach notification processes, data inventory. It's very key. Information asset register. You have to give them all this information asset register. Let them know what information they are getting. International organization processes. You have to also tell them this is the best practice. In best practice, this is what you need to do. Let the head of units, they are the drivers of the unit, so let them have all these head of departments and units. So see what you see, say what you see. Provide privacy notice information at any point where personal data is collected from data subject. The regulation also specifies that in any organization where data is, where you are collecting data, specify, just write a notice maybe of what you are collecting and why you are collecting it and the purpose you are collecting it for. Put it there so that when you are collecting the information, the data subject can read through and tell you, okay, yeah, this is the reason why you are collecting this information. You understand? Content of the privacy notice include what data are you collecting? This is what I just said earlier. The privacy notice can exist in contracts of employment and contracts with suppliers. Those things is key, yeah. We know we all deal with contractors and also suppliers. Those information, sometimes we collect information from them just to process the contracts. Those are key. Note, so that sometimes to review those contracts you have in place and make any necessary changes. If there are things that the person is not comfortable with, or you are not comfortable with the information you provided, you can request for additional information or data to provide so that you can process and make necessary changes. I have right. Yes, right is key. The right of data subject should be central to processing of data. Right to be informed. You have to be informed of why are you collecting this data. Right of access. Yes. If I want access to my data, I should get access to it. It's not that you collected my information and you say I don't have access. No, I have that right. Right to rectification. If there are mistakes in it, I have the right to tell you to change it and you must comply. Right to erasure. If there is anytime I feel this information you collect, maybe when I went to an organization, they said, okay, we are taking this. I asked, okay, after taking the information, I asked you, what are you doing? You're going to use the information to with. If it doesn't suit me, I will tell you, please, I'm not going into your organization. Oh, I don't want to have anything to do. Please delete that. I have that right, and you must delete that information. Let's keep it legal. The first principle of NDPR is the personal data shall be processed lawfully, fairly, and in transparent manner in relation to the data process, the data subject. You need to establish a lawful basis upon which to process someone's data. And there are six reasons why you can process someone's data. Data subject has given consent. Processing is necessary for the performance of a contract. Those are the reasons. Processing is necessary for compliance with the legal obligation. Processing is necessary in order to protect vital interests of the data subject. Yeah, those are the legal distance that you can take someone's data. Processing is necessary for the performance of tasks carried out in the public interest. Processing is necessary for the purpose of the legitimate interest pursued by the controller. Note, why are you processing the data? Ask yourself, or your business, how can you demonstrate this in the case? Example, in the case of consent, you will need to provide evidence that you obtained the data subject consent. That's why at the beginning I told you that consent is key. You have to tell that person, and he needs to give you that permission before you can take his data or process his data. That consent is key. When it goes wrong, who are you going to call? What to do if when you have a data breach? You might have put in place all the measures in the world, but to protect the data, train all your staff, back up daily, and have fantastic physical security. Definitely, you know that breach will come. No matter how secured is your system, an insider from your organization, he can just download an email, maybe, or see an attachment, open it, or maybe brings in a flash that is infected and use it on your system. A breach will come. When that thing happens, what are you going to do? Who are you going to contact? In an organization, there are processes. If a breach comes, if there is a breach, the data controller, maybe it happens in one department, we can tell the DPO, we have this is the situation we have. The DPO will go and assess and see if it's a breach. If it's a breach, he notified the management immediately. We have a data breach, and this is the measures we are taking. Inform them first, isolate the process, segment the breach, and also after mitigating the issue, you have to inform NITDA, that is Nigeria National Information Technology Development Agency. You have to inform them. You have a breach so time. This is the breach, and this is what you have done. So the first question: do you have a business continuity plan or an incident management process? Almost all the time, when an organization come to us, maybe to showcase some of the new innovations they have, products they created, all this digital, we ask this question: business continuity. Some will give you a fantastic review about it. Some will tell you, yes, we have a MOU with so. Those are the people. The people are responsible. Okay, give us the MOU. Let's see. Sometimes you see the agreement is not up to. And what we are concerned about is the protection of the policy, the consumers. You have the NDPR specified. You must protect those data subject, the people you are collecting data from. So if there is no business continuity plan or there is no security in place, then if something happened, how are you going to come back? So that is key. The next step is to ensure someone has the role on your crisis management team to review the incident and make an appropriate assessment. That is why most of the time it's not compulsory by the law, but we always advise that the DPO should be someone who has knowledge of IT and also a background of security, so that if there is an incident that occurs, you'll be able to say, okay, this is it. The action plan will be faster than if it's somebody maybe is from legal or somebody from HR, before they can assemble, get the team, take the action plan, maybe the issue has gone far. So those are the kind of thing you need to consider. Data protection officer is the compliance officer, legal secretary, company secretaries, finance and risk leaders all seem to have the role of DPO. I told you it's not really specified that it must be IT. No, it can be. But I always say this, I always recommend that, so that for smooth operation. But the NDPR has stated that the role of DPO is very specific and requires very specific skills and level of autonomy. The first step is to decide if you do indeed need a DPO. In some organization, it's not compulsory you must have a DPO. You can outsource it. You can outsource the role, as there are only 3 reasons this is mandated. The process is carried out by a public authority or body. You can outsource it. The DPO, you can outsource it to somebody to the public. The core activities require regular and systematic monitoring of data on a large scale. That is for the DPO. The core activities of the controller or the processor consist of processing on a large scale of special categories of data. So all those things, if these things are in place and you feel like, okay, the DPO, the person you have in the organization cannot do all these things, doesn't have the technical know-how to do this, you can outsource it. But note, if you don't need to designate a DPO, which is the role that can be outsourced, you need to document your reason. You have to give a reason. But in any effect, if you decided you don't need a DPO, you need someone who is designated to consider data protection in everything you do. Because at some point, someone is going to want to exercise their right. That one is for sure. If there is a conflict, someone say, no, I don't want my information again, you delete it, and you say, no, you don't want to delete it. This is where the DPO will come in and interpret the situation for you. Role of a data protection officer. The DPO has to ensure that the data protection rules are respected in accordance with the Data Protection Authority. That is the NIDA. Ensure that controllers and the data subject are informed about their data protection rights, obligations, and responsibilities, and raise awareness about them. Give advice and recommendation to the institution about the interpretation or application. This one I told you, you are there as a DPO, you need to be advising the management. When there is a need to, a DPO also report directly to the management. It doesn't report to a head of unit or head of department. The DPO report directly to the management, so that there will be faster, and also there will be quicker way of responding to incidents. When the reporting line is short, you tend to get things easily done. But when the reporting line is long, the process takes forever before you can get your result. So that's why mostly the DPO is supposed to report directly to the management. Create a register for processing operations within the institution. You have to create a register. Ensure data protection compliance within the institution. That is the basic role. Handle queries or complaints on request by the institution, the controller, other persons, or on her own initiative. If somebody, maybe let's say the controller, which I told you earlier that each unit, what we do in our organization, each department have the data controller, which oversees what is going on in the department and be sure that they are in compliance with the regulation. Those controllers report to the DPO, and from there, any reports, anything, any incidents or anything they feel that they need to escalate, they have to be pushed to the management for decisions. Draw the institution attention to any failure to comply with the applicable data protection rules. If there is any failure to comply before the annual audit, you can draw the attention of management, because every year the agency look into your compliance level and check. If you are not complying, there is sanctions, there are penalties. Even as a regulator, NIDA can sanction us, can penalize us because we are not complying to the regulations. Position of data protection officer. The DPO should not be an employee on a short-term or fixed-term contract. No, an employee he must be a permanent employee. Apart from permanent, a long-term contract, not just short-term, because he can start something now and he leaves and that is all. No, you have to get somebody who can stay for a long time, and also before he leaves there will be a transition. The DPO should not report to a direct superior, rather, which I told you earlier, it must be to the top management. The DPO should have responsibility for managing his or her own budget. In every organization, there should be a budget for the DPO, which he can manage, in case of any unforeseen situation, before they can do say this budget. No, you have already your budget that you can use to act quickly. The organization must offer staff and resources to support the TPO, which I told you this is what we did in our in NICOM. We have the data controller in other departments, which are the support. The DPO should have the authority to investigate. Definitely, you can go to any unit and investigate if you feel that there is a breach or that unit or department are not complying with the data regulations. You have the right to go there. You can investigate and do your due diligence and send to management. A minimum term of appointment and strict condition for dismissal must be set out by the organization for a DPO post. Yeah, there should be a condition for that. So, having said all these things, for you as a status, if you want to comply with the regulation, is something that comes to stay. You cannot shy away from it. But at the same time, what we do in NICOM, we are not just regulating, we are also encouraging and supporting innovation. We are also finding the way to promote the industry so that we, at the same time, protect the policy holders and also the consumers, which is part of our mandate. So in everything we are doing, we are both looking at those two angles, the consumers and the developers, or let's say the players of the industry. So you as a startup coming to the industry, there are certain regulations you cannot shy away from, but when we see innovation, we encourage it. Just keep that in mind, that we are here to support and to promote the insurance industry. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Ibrahim, for that comprehensive walkthrough of both the regulation itself, but also kind of breaking it down into more informal terms, right? So I really enjoyed that part, around the say what you see and who do you call if something goes wrong. I want to encourage the people on the call, if you have a question, to please type it into the chat window or to put up your hand. But to get us started, I personally have a question or two for you, Ibrahim. Right. So, I was listening to your entire presentation, and it kind of felt to me at the end that it feels like this policy has been created, but with maybe a big organization in mind, right? So I'm looking at, crisis management teams and, DPOs and that sort of thing. And we know the audience on this call are primarily startups, right? It's a startup ecosystem, which means that they generally tend to be small teams and they run with limited resources, both in terms of headcount, actually most especially in terms of headcount, never mind money. So it almost feels difficult to comply. What would you recommend? And is there a light version, like 3 things you must do, and then the rest we'll figure it out as we go along? But what would you recommend for smaller organizations that don't have unlimited resources?
All right, thank you, Tonya. For startups, what we normally say for the startups is, because of the limited resources and also a regulation is there that you have to comply. And also, if you look at the startups, they don't normally have that bunch of data they are keeping. They're just starting, they have limited data and also limited resources. So if a startup is, if you're looking at the level of compliance of startup is very, very low. What we do in NICOM, we are the one responsible for the industry. We all make sure that all the insurance companies, brokers, and agents make sure that they comply with the data protection regulation, because it's part of the key mandate that NIDA gave us. And also, so in terms of this, we concentrate more on the insurance industry, that is the insurance companies, because they they have more data than the brokers. What a broker will do, and we'll just keep our eyes up. What an insurance company, if an insurance company do the same, no, we won't let it go. We have to look at it. So also for the insurtechs, what a broker can do and we'll check, and to innovate those, we are trying to push them, see how far they can go, support them. What we will do for the brokers, we will not do for them. That is how it is. I hope I answered it correctly, Tonya.
Yes, in fact, I think that's good news. So in other words, it's not as stringent on the insurtech ecosystem as it is on if you are an underwriter, for example.
Yes, you are right.
And okay. Okay, which was going to lead to my second question around, if you're a standard insurtech and you're working with underwriters, is the burden therefore on you, or is it on the underwriter to ensure, who's the burden on here? Is it on the underwriter or is it on the insurtech?
No, actually, the burden is on the underwriter, because the underwriter is the one who is bringing the product to us.
Mm-hmm.
The insurtech is going under the underwriter, so the underwriter is the one that is contacting NICOM with this thing. So all the burden is on the underwriter, not on the insurtech.
Okay, all right, that's good. And again, I just want to encourage, if there are any questions, I'm surprised no one wants to follow up on that. I think it's great news. Let me ask you a second question, Ibrahim. So, there's always, particularly if you're in the business of innovation, we know typically that the cycle tends to be that regulatory or compliance tends to follow innovation. You can't really regulate something that doesn't exist, right? And
Definitely.
so as a result, particularly as an insurtech today, you're overburdened with a significant amount of regulation. As it is, the insurance industry is highly regulated, and now we've got some data protection things to think about at the same time. What kind of support can the group on this call expect from NICOM?
Okay, there is one thing I will assure them, is that the management of NICOM currently, and let me say it's just a tip I'm giving them. The management of NICOM currently, they are really concerned about insurtechs, innovations, and so anything that has to do with over-regulation, they tend to make it a little lower. The only thing that you see them putting much pressure on is when it's a law. It's in the act. The act said you must get this, you must get that. That is the only place you see them. But if it's something that has to do with maybe it's a market conduct, maybe um, uh, all this recent regulation, that is the circulars issued by NICOM, they tend to overlook it for all the insurtech. And also, if you look at agents, insurtechs, all new innovators, they tend to overlook them. I happen to be most of the time part of the product defense team. Most of the time, if they come as an innovator, you come with a product and insurtech products, we actually encourage you most of the time. The only times you go back, maybe you see if the key part of NICOM, that is protection of consumers, is not captured in it. Maybe you are taking information from consumers and there is no any proof that you are safeguarding that. That is the only way we put eyes on. But other than that, we actually encourage that.
Okay. All right. Good. So to kind of turn this a little bit on its head, what apart from not getting into trouble with the regulator,
Yeah.
what are the benefits of compliance? I mean, throughout this BimaLab, if there's one thing I've heard repeated oftentimes is that there's a severe lack of trust in insurance in the market, right? In your mind, is there a way in which, on the one hand, yes, you're complying to be compliant, but is there a way in which said compliance can actually be a driver for trust, right? So I don't know if I've asked my question well enough, and please let me know if you want me
No,
to clarify it.
you did. I really, this is the question we get almost all the time. So, compliance in a way that it promotes public trust. We see compliance as part of promoting public trust. Like, I'll give you an example of maybe like the way we deal with operators, that is the underwriters. Public trust is when you comply with the NICOM said between 3 months or maybe of report of claim, you have to settle that claim. You comply with that. If you comply with that, that claim, that customer will tell you, oh yeah, I've had this claim and this company settled it with this so time. It will tell another person, and that person will tell another person. It will go. So we see compliance as part of, if you don't comply with the regulation, NICOM said do this, you did not, you do this, you do. We get complained like several times if those compliance are not followed. So really, compliance is an integral part of public trust.
Okay, great. So I see there's a question from the audience, Edwin Muyunga, and then after Edwin Muyunga, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, for the presentation.
You're a little bit unclear. If you don't mind getting a bit closer to your mic, and then please introduce yourself and then ask your question.
What about now?
Perfect.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Ibra, for the presentation. My name is Edwin Muyunga, and I'm from Draco. It's an insurtech we just launched in Nigeria. My question is about the consent. I've seen from your presentation that there should be physical consent when somebody asks for it, but we are signing up customers where products are actually opt-in. Should that be taken as a consent from a customer where maybe you're signing them through an app and something like that? Because from your presentation, I saw there should be physical consent, something like a physical form, or what do you advise clients or people in the industry who are coming up with products and actually their opt-ins and consumption is online? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Edwin. The consent I mentioned is not really physical. It can be physical. It can be virtual. It can be. The only thing, the information you are taking, you are telling the customer, okay, this is what I'm taking. This is why I'm taking this information. You understand? Maybe just like a disclaimer, we are taking this information for so thing. That is just what the law said. You understand? It's not necessarily physical. I'm just giving an example of that physical because maybe if you walked into an organization, they asked you this and they pasted the reason why they are asking you or maybe taking those data. That is why I mentioned that, I gave that example. But it's not necessary. As an insurtech, I know you deal with the product which are maybe you can buy insurance online, maybe do this. Maybe when you are filling the form, maybe put in your information. You can just put it maybe at the top. Okay, we are taking this information for this reason. That is all. it's just telling the customer, okay, yeah. And when he reads, he knows that, yes, you are taking this information for this reason, so he will feel it gladly. That is just the concept. I hope I've answered your question well.
Yeah, sure. It
Okay.
answered the question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Edwin. All right, we have another question from Thomas. Thomas, you want to unmute your line, introduce yourself, and then ask your question?
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. I think it's quite a learning experience. For me, I think I want to ask a question concerning the regulatory part. You said that you focus more on the underwriter. So my presumption is that it's because it's the more of the customer-facing side of, the services we provide as InsurTech. But consider it, supposing in a case whereby the InsurTech takes up the responsibility of, doing the sales part and, contacting the customers and all that. And even the section where claims are raised, they are raised to, not to the underwriter, but now to the InsurTech. Does that mean that we start falling into the category where we need to be regulated by NICOM as an insurance company?
Okay, Mr. Thomas, that's a very good question. Yeah, it's true that we focus more on the underwriter because they interface with the customer more. For an InsurTech, pending how to sort, let me say how they are going to sort your license. But I think for now you are going through an underwriter. If you are going through underwriter, it's a product. That means you are going as a product. You are not being scrutinized as an underwriter. We are just checking the product. What is the product you are offering? What is the performance? How is it going to affect the public? That is the consumers. And what, our primary key objective is to protect the policyholder, that is the consumers. So if anything you offered is going to bring a problem to the public, we have to look into it and see how are we going to provide a solution in such a way that it's not going to affect the public. But for you, there is no much over regulation on you. The regulation is on the underwriters because they are the one reporting what they sell. So maybe if they sell your product, they are reporting it on their books, and we are checking it from them, not from you. You understand? I hope it's okay like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much.
Okay. Do we have any additional questions or clarifications from the audience before I ask my next one? Okay, so let me ask you an additional question, right? So a lot of people on this call, particularly when we had the opportunity to speak with them as we were admitting them to the accelerator, and even for those that didn't make it to the accelerator, a lot of them have ambitions and look at the market not purely from a Nigeria only standpoint. I think that the opportunity is an Africa-wide opportunity. Insurance is underpenetrated across the African continent, so there's a huge market for this. And so pretty much everyone on this call, when they start to think of growth and market and expansion, they're thinking of geographical expansion across markets. But we also know that in every market, apart from having to deal with regulators such as NICOM and your counterparts, then there's also data protection laws across markets and that sort of thing. And we also know, and I've had, I've looked at the data protection laws in Nigeria, looked at them in Ghana, looked at them in Kenya. There's not much to differentiate, right?
Yeah.
Can we look forward to seeing a bit of a harmonization of these policies across? I mean, we're talking big dreams for Africa these days. We're talking about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. We're talking about even our regional groupings like ECOWAS in West Africa, and in East Africa, we have the East African Community, which strangely these days also includes the Democratic Republic of Congo. So we're seeing a lot of this. Can we look forward to some sense of harmonization so that, particularly on things like data protection, where the laws are pretty similar across the board, you don't have to go through the hoops to be compliant every time you want to open up in new markets?
Yeah, thank you, Tonya. I think this question has been lingering for a while, but let me tell you that, let me give you a good news now, that this work has been on, and we have gone far. Let me tell you, we have gone far, mostly the West African region. I know in the near future, MOUs will be signed, but for all these regulations, that cross-border regulation, I think we are almost at the finishing end. So very soon we'll sign an MOU, and this issue will not be an issue again. You can easily move and market your product across African regions, which we have MOUs with, and they will accept our regulation. We will accept their regulation too, and straightforward it will go. Yes.
But that would be great news, and we look forward to that happening
Yes,
for the market. Yeah. So I have a question in the chat window from Comfort of Izano Africa. Comfort, I'm not sure if this specifically speaks to data regulation or it's because we have an individual from NICOM and you want to ask this question. In any case, I'm going to read it out, but I'm going to ask you to clarify the context, please. So you'll unmute yourself and clarify the context. The question says, are there regulations that specify the maximum or minimum ratio underwriters are supposed to take from insurtechs? Comfort, do you want to qualify the question for us, please?
Yeah, good evening. Thank you very much, Sonia.
Also, I wanted to hear your voice. Also, I wanted to hear your voice. You know, we have to have girl power.
I know. Yeah. So, the question is the relation, not particularly in relation to data protection, but in the general regulations as it relates to underwriters and insurtech transactions.
Okay. Thank you, Comfort. I think for now, for the insurtech, I don't think there's any maximum ratio or minimum ratio so far. But it's just like a free flow first. Let's see what they can offer then before we can start other regulations on them. But for now, it's a free flow.
Thank you very much.
I hope I answered you. You are the first female I answered today. So, oh no, second, since I have answered to you.
I was about to take offense.
No. Sorry about that.
No worries. Okay. All right. So my last question for you is really around the convergence of, we're talking about data policies and data privacy and data protection. And how that interfaces with the risks that we see in the digital ecosystem today, particularly things like, cybersecurity risks and other digital risks that we see. Do you see a connection between the two? And I know you and I had a prior discussion around potential insider risk and so on. Do you mind just talking to that a little bit? Because I think it really expands the use case for why people want to be compliant, and it's not only about the law.
Sorry, you were breaking. I didn't get you well.
So I was talking about a potential convergence between digital risks and cyber risks that we're seeing in the market today, vis-a-vis the data protection policies that we're talking about. Do you see a connection point there? And I know you and I had a prior discussion, and we also talked about broader insider risks and so on. I wonder if you can talk a little bit to that for the audience so that they can see where potential connection points could be.
Yeah, of course. So thank you. And as the world is going digital, well, let me say the world has gone digital. Cyber risk has increased. If you look at recently, last year in Nigeria, we were hit. Even early this year, we were hit by a ransomware, where most of even the NIMC was down, the FRS they were down. It affected some part of our licensing application. It affected Nigerian NIGCOMSAT, so many of the government agencies, which the bridge happens to be from the Galaxy backbone. So even the regulators are not safe from the data breach. So also, no matter how little you are, no matter how small your company is, for as long as you go digital, you keep a data, you are connected, you are prone to data breach. But the other thing is that the benefit outweighs the effects. So in this case, you cannot run away from data breach. The other thing is you can mitigate it, or you can outsource it, or you can retain it if it happens. What happens is when we were hit, because we have a business continuity plan which we have been testing, running all the time, we were able to come back within a short period of time. But for the NIMC, I think for Galaxy, it took them like a week before they were able to restore back to normalcy. So in this kind of environment, in this ecosystem, you cannot shy away from it. But the other thing I can tell you is that constant awareness, security awareness, training, backup and recovery plans, those are the things that you need to put in place. Don't think that you have built something that is perfect, that you cannot be attacked. No, an insider attack can come in, which is the most dangerous among all of them. Somebody can just come into your staff can just trigger something and it will ruin you. So constant backup, business continuity plan, awareness is key. Always give awareness to these are the things you need to do. Don't do this, do that, or just create awareness. That's the way we do in our organization. We have an active directory group policy plan, which we actually dispatch information. Not emails. We can send email, but sometimes your screen, once you log into your screen, you see, don't do this, do that, do this. It's just like awareness to keep your mind up and running. Okay, before I do this, I need to do that, just to minimize the impact. You understand? In the ecosystem, but as a startup, please don't think that you build something that is perfect. Please put that in mind, that you have to be checking, doing your constant backup, so that if anything happens, you can still come back to your normalcy within a shortest period of time. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We have a final question from Comfort in the window.
Okay.
And I think it's an important one. She says it would be great to have a list of accredited underwriters in Nigeria, which will allow for us to mitigate any risk of falling prey to underwriters who've been barred from service provision, and to avert monopolistic tendencies. Is this something that you feel, Khalil Ibrahim, that NICOM would be able to provide?
Yes, you can go to our website. The list of all underwriters, licensed underwriters are there. Go to nicom.gov.ng, our website, you'll see it. List of all Licensed underwriters are there.
Okay. Okay. And we assume it's up to date. That's wonderful.
It's up to
Thank
date,
you.
yes. Yes.
Okay. Great. So any other questions from the audience? I'm getting ready to wrap up the call. For those who joined while we were in flight, Ibrahim has to break early. I'm just wondering before we wrap it up, if there's anybody who has any additional questions for Ibrahim before we go. And while people are thinking and mulling it over, Ibrahim, one of the things you said when we talked about what kind of assistance the insurtechs can expect from NICOM, and you very generously offered NICOM's help. I'd really love if you could type in your email address into the window. As the DPO there, I think that it's wonderful that you're potentially the first point of contact, and I guess you can field queries or connect even the team here to the right people over at the guys who manage the NDPR policies and so on. So if you don't mind, and if I'm not asking too much of you, would you mind typing in your email address so people can reach you if they have additional questions or if they want to tap into you? Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay,
Just
so
type it in now.
guys,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
I want to thank you for your time today. It was a much shorter call, and I think we all understand why. Ibrahim, I wanted to find out, do you have any last words or remarks that you want to leave us with before I kind of give my closing remarks?
Yeah, okay. I think like last 3 weeks back in Lagos, I met somebody which I saw his innovation very interesting, very interesting. So with all this really moved me when I saw that innovation, and we have a good interaction. And I just want to tell you guys that what you guys are doing is really appreciative, and NICOM will support you in any ways they can to promote you and make sure that you can achieve your goals. Those are the things that I can assure you that NICOM will do that. So thank you, and really congratulations to you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And on behalf of the group on the call, I want to say thank you. I see we actually do have a last question. So Temi Tope, do you want to ask your question quickly before we wrap up?
Hi, Ibrahim. How you doing? This is Temitope of PU.
I feel you. You are the one I met in Lagos 3 weeks back. Yes.
Absolutely. I've been listening carefully to everything you have to educate us about today, so I didn't want to distract your attention. That's why I've not asked my question. I can always ask by WhatsApp, right? So
Okay.
thank you
No
so much
problem.
for calling out PU. I appreciate it.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Really, you did a good job. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Temi Tope. And you knew it was you that he was talking about, which is great. Okay. All right. So, to wrap up the call, thank you all so much for being here. I took a couple of notes. For me, some of the more important pieces of information that you shared. For the people on the call, just know that the slide deck will be made available to you, and obviously, as usual, a recording of the call, so you can always reference that. I really liked, I think it was your 8 points that was almost like a step-by-step that you took us through. I know that you said that the burden of compliance is lighter on the insurtech than it is on the underwriter. However, that doesn't take away from the importance of the conversation, particularly when you think about it in the context of building the right reputation and trust in the ecosystem, which are wonderful side effects of compliance anyway. So I think that there's work there to be done for everybody. And even though we don't expect it to be at the magnitude of a large underwriter, I think that we can safely say excuse me, that some element of the burden is definitely owned by the insurtech, right? I really liked the point, Ibrahim, that you made around, nothing is perfect, and don't feel that you've built the perfect thing. Even simple standard, almost like software engineering 101 lessons around business continuity plans and backups and that sort of thing goes a long way towards helping you in terms of being compliant with regards to these regulations. And they don't only do that, but they also support and back up your business as well. It was funny when you were talking about, you know, the Galaxy backbone going down. I mean, people often, I'm from Kenya, I should confess. In Kenya, people always assume a lot of the hackers are some people sitting somewhere in Russia, and we have a bit of breathing room right now while they're busy in Ukraine. But you're right, you know, a lot of these risks and a lot of these risks actually emanate inside of your organization. And so it's really important to have the right tools and processes in place so that you have a real understanding of where and how data is being used and accessed within your organization. I think the last piece, which was really important for me, is your generous offer for people to reach out and get help from NICOM if they need that. I think it's always wonderful when we see two different regulators working well together. I know that NICOM has been working with the NDPR team as well to see how to start driving the message and the awareness around compliance for these policies. And I think that the more feedback the group on this call is able to provide you with at NICOM, it then allows you to be a real representative for the industry, and you can take that over to NITDA or whoever it is, and we can get them to start kind of thinking of smart ways to really drive regulation compliance as well. So with that, I want to say thank you very much, all of you. I want to wish you a wonderful rest of the evening. I see Comfort saying we look forward to having NICOM, CB, and NCC on this call before the end of the program. We'll see what we can do about that, but that's a really good comment, and I'll see what we can do about it. You've definitely addressed it to the right person. I want to wish you a happy rest of the evening. Ibrahim, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you. We appreciate your knowledge, and we appreciate you taking the time to share with the group on this call today. Have a good iftar, and we'll speak with you all again soon.
Thank you very much, Tonya. Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you all.
Thank you all.